Williams-Preston. I'm a member of Black Lives Matter South Bend. And we just, on behalf of BLM South Bend, I just want to thank everybody for being here today, for taking some time out. It's a beautiful evening outside, and you chose to be here. And that's a really important thing. It's an important thing because what we know is that when we come together, we can make change. And that's, again, what this is really all about. To also last Saturday, you know, kind of be drug out of my house, quite frankly. The young people were pulling me. I didn't want to go to the march. You know, I'm done with this. This is done. I'm just tired. And for them to just pull me out and get out there and see literally hundreds and hundreds of people. We've also had an amazing week so far. Last night, many of you might have been at our chalking event. It was a somber event, but it was the right thing, and it was a beautiful night. So we're reacting, I'm reacting, the whole world is reacting to what's happening in the United States right now. And so I just wanted to take a moment to kind of ground us in this space where we are. And someone shared this amazing video that you see. I'm going to play that. We're going to take just a few moments to just kind of come into the room and be mindful. So if you'll listen for just a few moments to this young Black man and what he has to say.
I'm a young Black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hunted as prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
Thank you all for listening just for a moment. So I just wanted to invite some comments from Jess and Kyra about what's going on. What's going on? We heard there was quite a lot of activity happening down in Indianapolis.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Jessica Louise, Indy 10, Black Lives Matter, she, her, hers. So we are laboring for justice in one of the cases of our local police force killing 3 people in the span of 8 hours in early May, including a pregnant woman and her unborn child. In the case of Dre'Jon Reed, we are working with the family on demands. The demands are that we want to know the officer's name so that we can know who to hold accountable for it. We want them to tell the truth. The family had a press conference yesterday, and the lawyer and the mom explicitly said that the story that has been given to the public by IMPD is simply not true. We want the officer fired and held accountable for murder, and then we also want for citizens to have input on the use of force review board. There have been demonstrations nearly every day since I would say last weekend, where people are gathering together under the support and guidance that we have to offer as organizers in the city, to just trying to find community with each other. And we are excited about the enthusiasm that the city has right now for the labor for social justice. As far as Indy BLM is concerned, we are focusing our efforts on making sure that at demonstrations that we provide support for, that we are lifting up the demands. We have also put out some paperwork for people who are interested in providing jail support. So if you are not a person who finds that you are interested in, or if you have some concern or anxiety around direct action or demonstration, please go to our Facebook page, and we have a Google Doc there where you can sign up to be a jail support volunteer. And we also have a wish list, because we want to make sure that if people are demonstrating and if for some reason they're detained or arrested by the police, that they have some comforts when they are released. So we're laboring on all sides, really, and we're excited about where it's going to take us. And we're still holding space for grief and Black rage here in Indianapolis.
Awesome. So you talked about your demands most specifically. Do you want to restate those?
Absolutely. So we want the officer's name who killed Trajan Reed. We want that officer fired. We want that officer held accountable for the murder of Trajan Reed. We want IMPD to tell the truth about what actually happened the day that the pursuit and the killing happened. And then we also want input. We want community input as far as the use of force review board that is going to be replacing another review board here in the city.
And we're all going to pour our resources into Indianapolis, and we know that they're going to be here for us as well. Because this movement, it's all about the same core issues. It's all about the same core. It might look different. What we need or what we want from our particular leaders may look different from Gary to Indy to South Bend. But in the end, it's really about respecting the humanity of all people. The Movement for Black Lives campaign in particular has a goal to defund the police. You know, all of our problems, all of the things that we need in our communities can't be solved with the police. You know, we know that we look to the police whenever there's any sort of trouble, and that's overtaxing the police itself, but it's also creating an undue burden on a community that's already over-policed. And so it's really important that we understand what we mean by that. And what we're saying is, no, we don't need more police. What we need is to really live our values. We keep saying we want to be trauma informed. We want to be restorative. So when you have a community that's already over policed and traumatized by the police in the community, just the presence, why would we add more police? There's another way. And what we are demanding here in South Bend, instead of hiring 10 more police, for that cost, we could hire 20 in what's called interventionists. And what that is, these are people who are trained in conflict resolution, people who are trained in to be trauma informed, people who live in our communities who automatically have relationships with people within the community. So when something's going wrong, when my son is acting wild and I just need some help, I don't have to call the police. I can call Mr. Smith down the street because he's an interventionist and he has the skills to help us resolve our problems as a family. Doesn't have to lead to an arrest, doesn't have to lead to any sort of time in jail and bonding out, because that's just a domino effect of problems. So here in South Bend, Black Lives Matter South Bend demands first that Mayor James Mueller fire Police Chief Scott Ruskowski. It's just time for new leadership. This is happening too much. We also demand that the city of South Bend rebuild trust by releasing those police tapes to the public. This is one of the issues. We have to start recognizing the dynamics of institutional oppression. Sometimes an issue can get so old, nobody's talking about it anymore, right? But we have to lift it up. We have to continue to go back and lift up and say, hey, wait a minute. We never got justice on this issue. We still need to go back. We haven't forgot. So this is one thing we've been pushing for years. The city of South Bend must establish a civilian police accountability council. Now, there's a lot of different names for it. Doesn't matter the name, but it means the same thing. We have to have more accountability in the hands of the people. A civilian oversight committee must have subpoena power so that we can get the information. The people can do an independent investigation. That's how you're going to build trust. That is a response that's trauma informed and restorative, when you give power to the people to seek out those answers on their own. One more thing we cannot forget. it was 5 years ago that I got into the conversation, the Fire Nepper campaign. We have an officer still in our ranks, still on our streets. And we really need to make sure that we are holding our community, our mayor and our police chief accountable for making sure that we are safe. So that too is one of our demands, that we open that back up. We need to look at what's going on with NEPR, because we don't want to wait and end up with another George Floyd down the road and ask ourselves why. So I just want to give opportunity for other Black Lives Matter members.
So Laurel is on the line.
Laurel. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, y'all. What's going on?
Hey, good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Gosh, I don't know where to start. We just had an event in Hammond that was wholly attacked by a militarized police force. It was, I don't use the word peaceful protest or peaceful demonstration. I refuse to be the one held responsible for peace when I have neither a weapon, a license for one, am known to carry one, or the backing of the power of the state to defend me if I kill somebody. So I refuse to be the one that holds up the mantle for a peaceful event. We had an event. The event consisted of a whole lot of young people walking, and we were met with the most militarized force that I had seen. And that was on Saturday. That was replaced on, I don't even know what today's Thursday. I have a radio show. I'm gonna do it in a half hour. I didn't even know what today was. That I've never, me having never seen that type of militarized force on Saturday was replaced on Monday. Monday then became the most militarized force that I've ever seen in Hammond. But on Saturday, it was a whole lot of people that we came together for a rally that turned spontaneously into a march. I left the rally. I came back in my car to see if I could catch a couple of people that were there. And my car was met by people walking towards it. So I was driving behind the group, trying to provide like impromptu security, but they soon got to a place that I couldn't follow in my car. I eventually caught up with them at City Hall in Hammond, parked my car, hopped out of my car, walked around, talked to people, made some comments, and these folks are on fire, as we all are. They wanted to keep going. There was no destination in mind. There was no plan to take a highway or anything like that. They just wanted to keep going. And we were met with such a militarized force. I'd never seen this before. And I've been sprayed with, pepper spray and mace and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what toxic gas they were spraying on people. It took me 3 days to get whatever this was off of my person, in terms of being able to feel it with my hands, right? So still no threat, nobody, I think at the most somebody threw a water bottle, but people had already been shot with these toxic pellets.
Wow.
And these were mostly very young people. These are mostly, there was a good contingent of teenagers there.
Wow.
And it was an attack. It was an absolute attack. The mayor of Hammond was there. I do a radio show, and the mayor of Hammond is a frequent guest of another midday host. And the mayor of Hammond was on there a couple days ago lying. Are we cussing on this show? We're not allowed to cuss. I work at Disability Rights. We cuss all the time. Lying his buttocks off about what happened. And it was awful. It was brutal what happened. I can't say that I've experienced that since Ferguson, I must say. Ferguson is the only frame of reference that I have for how they attacked this group of people without the means to defend themselves in a similar fashion, or even close. They couldn't defend themselves at all.
Wow.
We had to get people out of there. We had, thankfully, I had a friend who lived not far from where the confrontation happened. So, I'm sure my friend would have been real surprised if his wife hadn't already been toxically sprayed directly in her face too. She's a former reporter, so she pulled out her phone and went into reporter mode. But they got her. They got her.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
A couple days later, another contingent put on social media that, hey, we go keep on down the same street. We go start closer, and we're gonna keep down the same street. And again, so the way Northwest Indiana is situated, you have Interstate 8094 that's separating Hammond and East Chicago on one side, and Griffith, I guess, but that's too far down. Hammond and East Chicago on one side. Somebody's waiting in the waiting room for somebody who needs to know. And then you have the more affluent, more white area on the other side of 8094. And that's what they were trying to keep people out of. They weren't defending Hammond. They weren't even defending the highway. They were trying to keep this group of majority Black youth. But it was a to me, to look at it, it was a very multiracial grouping. But it was, it was led, the militancy of it was led by the Black youth. They were trying to keep them out of Munster, which is an affluent area. And they did so with extreme force. And then the mayor proceeded to lie about it on the radio. He painted himself as the champion of the day. And all the mayor did was comment to some kids about what a hard position he was being put in, which I think is quite a representative statement for the mayor who shed the most tears on the news, right? The Minneapolis mayor. I think it's a really good symbol for how, I'm trying so hard not to cuss, for how when things are brought to their front door, they care. Right? When things are brought to their front door, they care. Before that, when it's brought to down the street at the intersection, they don't care. And it doesn't even matter that it's working class white folks that are catching as much negative, that are catching a similar type of negativity, not as much. The degree is nowhere near the same, I have to say that. But the working class white folks ain't got it easy. They've just been bought off by racism. Right? They've been taught to identify with elitist whites when they're not getting anything that elitist whites gets. So right.
It calls for that kind of emotion.
It's on. So this is some hella insidious stuff. This capitalism and how it tricks people who are still under the heel of elites into believing they have enough in common with elites that they can threaten other people that are under the ground, because we're further under, right, than most working class whites for sure. But except when people take a stand against racism, then those folks who were next to us, they caught it. They caught as much of that toxic spray as I did. And so on Wednesday, you had another smaller group of probably mostly younger people who wanted to do what they called themselves preventing us from doing on Saturday, which is crossing this bridge into an affluent area called Munster. And not only did they have the militarized police, they had dogs out there this time. And in Maryville, they had a dog attack somebody. I mean, this is like 1950s, right, deep South type shit. The dogs were like attacking people. So they had a dog up here in Hammond, and it was just amazing to see. Now, later that night, I was home. I was practicing communal care. I don't do self-care, because if I do self-care, you won't hear from me for a month. So I practice communal care. I let people know I'm at home. I'd like not to be called, but you can check in if you want to. I'll respond. But and I get this call from a comrade who said that she heard of some very young people, high school age folks, that are on the same corner of Calumet and 175th. And I'm like, oh man, how young? And she's like, pretty young. And I'm like, here I come, I guess. And when I tell you, there was not a cop in sight. Well, I passed where the cops were. The cops were on the other side of the highway. So the kids were in Hammond. The cops were all in Munster. Not a cop in sight in Hammond where they were. The people who were protecting the tobacco store with AK rifles were there in the parking lot drinking and having a good time. No rifles pointed at these kids. Mostly white, all white. Wow. All white. They were standing there with anti-racist signs. They were standing there with signs that said Black Lives Matter. They were standing there with signs with Black people's names who had been killed by the police. So they were doing what they were supposed to be doing. The cops were doing what, if you have a class analysis about racism, what you expect them to be doing. The one cop who was riding by was a black cop and was rolling his window down to give them inspirational messages. And I couldn't help but say, but you shot at the majority black crowd that was up here not a few hours ago. Anyway, that's
wow.
So what we're dealing with here too, and especially in Gary, in the city of Gary itself, is a continuation of the issues that we've already been dealing with, a continuation of a heightened police presence, a continuation of the allowing of intra-community violence and crime that have to do with drugs, that have to do with the extreme poverty that people are being kept in. We don't say black on black crime because the race is not what describes a crime. It's a crime of concentrated social class and concentrated a concentrated effort to keep resources out of these specific communities. When you put a whole bunch of people in these communities together and prevent them from going into other communities. So this fight has been going on for a minute. BLM Gary pre-exists the Black Lives Matter network, and I think it's not even called network anymore, but we pre-exist that grouping. Just trying to get justice for people in the area, just trying to get somebody to respond when there's a complaint made about a cop violating people, just trying to get someone to respond about what seems like systematic economic injustice. And BLM has, I'm sorry?
No, finish, I'm sorry.
I said BLM has had a core 7 demands that we narrowed down to 3 main demands, having to deal with an immediate stopping of what was referred to as sweeps, where you had police forces going into a community, ravaging a community, entering people's homes forcibly, taking people out on whatever warrant they may have had, and it didn't matter what. We demand an establishment of an impartial, community-controlled review board. The review board that the city has now, it's a sham. They're all either ex-cops or relatives of cops or people that are very friendly to the current political administration, and there is no justice there. So we've demanded that a review board be created of people who have been, unfortunately, people who have survived attacks by the police, people who have survived mismanagement by the city government, people who have survived the things that we're talking about. We're asking for a path to justice for people that haven't had it for a very long time. So we're having an event tomorrow at 12 noon in front of City Hall in Gary, 12 noon Central Standard Time. And we're going to be gathering at City Hall. And we're going to be talking about what we've experienced thus far, talking about what all of these international groupings, these international marches that have happened, how Gary fits right in the middle of that. How these issues that are faced by people across the world and the country and the state directly affect what's happening to people right there in Gary, and how we can get more people to come together to give voice to it and to help in this fight back. And again, I will be accentuating how this has to be a concentration on race. It has to be a concentration on social class. It has to be a concentration on gender, sexual identification. It has to be a concentration on all of the ways that we're marginalized in society. And because nobody's going to get free in a vacuum. We're going to get free together, or we're not going to get free. And so that's what we're going to be. That's what we're going to be focusing on. We're going to be asking families who have lost people due to police terrorism to speak. We're going to be asking people to give whatever testimonial they want to give. This is not going to be a religious event. This is not going to be a political event. This is going to be an event of the people. And if the people want to bring that aspect into it, they can, but they're going to be on a timer. We got to, keep right. We're not trying to have revival. So, yeah, it's going to be people actively coming together to address these issues.
I heard you say that dogs were being
that was in Hammond. So Northwest Indiana, the cities are like right next to each other, next to each other.
Right.
So that happened in a place where it had never happened. So it's probably happened in Gary before. It never happened in Hammond
at all. The fact that it's happening at all in 2020, and so often we feel. You remember that term post-racial? People used to say. I think that's shot out of the water. Nobody's going to talk about that anymore. Yeah. What is happening We have to open
Capitalism.
our eyes.
It's
I want
capitalism.
to thank.
If we're not attacking, and this is what I'm saying, I probably got to jet out of here too. And Kim is going to join you all later. If we are not attacking capitalism, we're only doing a segment of the job. We have to attack the whole reason they're doing this. Racism has been their primary tool for so long because it works. It will continue to be their primary tool in order to maintain concentrated wealth in their hands. If we're not also attacking capitalism, we have to go beyond the reform. We need to ask for everything we can ask for, but we have to at least know that we got to go beyond that reform. We got to go with this system. So I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much for letting me talk.
Thanks, Laurel. We
No
will
problem.
get in touch. You're going to see some South Bend people out there standing with you. Thank you so much.
Can I give our email address? I'm sorry, real quick. Can I give our email address is Gary #2 Ferguson. So Gary, the number 2, FERGUSON. Did I spell that right?
I think you did.
At gmail.com. Gary2Ferguson, the number 2, at gmail.com. And perfect, right there. And if anybody has any questions, if anybody just wants to throw inspiration our way, you want to know anything, feel free to contact us there. Thank y'all so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Laurel. And we got that in the chat. If you didn't catch that email address, we just popped it in the chat for you. This is an opportunity, people. This is our chance. We're going to get off the couch. We're going to make sure this doesn't happen anymore. Not in our town, not in any town. And so we've shown that. Any of you thinking about joining us for some of the remaining actions this week, we have tomorrow. The youth have come forward. Out of Saturday's march, we had a number of young people, folks still in high school, maybe just graduated, who came to us and contacted us and said, we want to speak, we want to do something. So they've organized for tomorrow at 6 o'clock, meet us at the fountain. And you're going to hear from the young people of South Bend where they stand on these issues and what they need from us. Now, all these grown folks on this call, we need to see you down there because, you know, there's nothing more important than to listening to our young people. Emmanuel, he's here on the call. I don't know if he wants to give a little shout out about what he's going to be doing this Saturday. Emmanuel?
There we go. All right. Thank you for joining us, folks. Yeah, we're going to be having a space that is exclusively for white folks because I know there's a lot of people that they saw the video of George Floyd and they want to do something about it. So we're going to have a wonderful conversation about some solutions. I'm going to give you a bunch of tools that you can have for you to take with you and to share amongst yourself. Again, this is your space. I'm done with having conversations about let's continue the conversation. We need action, and this is an opportunity for you all to learn the tools and learn the skills in order to be the change that we want to see in this world. So thank you very much.
All right. Have a wonderful night, everybody. We'll see you at the